So yesterday, Arieh gave an interview and was talking about the dangers of the sovereignty plan that is scheduled to go into effect tomorrow, uh, or tomorrow or in the next couple of days. And I can't interpret this as well as some of you might be able to, but what it basically does show is how close the Israeli areas would be to the PLO areas, and that's something that we need to be concerned about. We need to think about. It's not something that necessarily we can do that much about at this point. These things are in other people's hands, but at least we can be informed, and that's what we're hoping for, to get Arieh here to give us a bit more information about what is.
Arieh may have joined us.
I did, I'm here.
Arieh, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom.
Okay. I would like to put your screen as I have the map. I put the map up here.
It's okay. It's a good map. What you had before, it's a good map. Yes.
Okay.
It's a good map to start with.
Okay. Alicia, can you help me with getting the map and Arieh on two sides of a share screen?
So we can't really do that. People can hit speaker view at the top, and when Arieh speaks, he should be featured, but you can really, I can flip back and forth is what I.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's
okay.
So
I would start, Judy.
Please.
Okay, so let's look at the map that you all see at the screen at FC. First of all, sorry to be delayed. I'm here at the channel 20. I ran out from the studio to get into your Zoom meeting.
Arieh, we are so pleased. We are so honored that you will take this time and run out at a very, very late hour for you to be with us. And we are so honored to have everybody who's on this meeting in the meeting with us. And so just thank you for everybody being here, and thank you, Arieh, for being here. And let's just get on with it.
Look, first, I think that this meeting is important, first for each one of the participants, the people that participating in this meeting, but it's also, you should know, it's important for Jerusalem, for the future of Jerusalem. I'm going to focus on what's the plans that Bibi and Trump have for Jerusalem. I can tell you that I met 10 Knesset members and 2 ministers that when I sat with them and talked with them about the plan of the century and what it's regarding to Jerusalem, all about Jerusalem, they didn't have a clue, okay? Really didn't know anything, but they supported the plan. After they met me, suddenly they started asking questions. And the same thing I'm trying to do at the last week or two, to get to people in the States, people that can get to Trump people, to the White House, to the State Department, to Congress people, because the fact that you will hear now will disturb anyone that really care about the life of the people living in Jerusalem, and second, that is caring for the future of Jerusalem as a Jewish and united city. Let's start with the map. If you look at the map that you all see at the screen, so you see the red dots line. This is according to Trump and Bibi's plan. By the way, I must say something to start with. Don't be confused. The plan is Bibi's plan. Bibi at the year 2009, 11 years ago, he already then at Bar Ilan University suggested this plan. Much before Trump was a candidate for president, it was Obama time, and Bibi at 2009, at June 2009, Bibi went to Bar Ilan University, and he started to describe his plan for a peace in the Middle East. And yes, he already then talked about Jerusalem and about 30% only of sovereignty, and establishing a Palestinian terrorist state. So again, it's the semantica is very important. Stop calling it Trump plan. It's not a Trump plan. And the reason why Bibi chose to use the name Trump plan, because I think like I know, Trump is much more stronger, and I will say even pro-Israel, than Bibi Netanyahu. And another thing, Trump have his word. He have some, kavod. He respect his word, not like Bibi. Bibi proved already by giving to the Palestinian, to the PLO, Hebron, and later giving Abu Dis, and supporting giving Gush Katif, and north of Samaria. Bibi is a politician that gave more and was supporting more than any other politician existing today in the Knesset, part of Eretz Israel. It's a fact. Now the point is, using Trump is helping Bibi to sell this market to the Israeli public, because Trump is considered to be a stronger and more right-wing person than Bibi. Take example, the embassy. To move the embassy to Jerusalem, it must be said, Bibi was against it because he was afraid that the intifada would start because of moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Thank God, Trump promised to his voters that he would move the embassy, and he really did it because he promised, and he have his word is a word, and he stand behind of his words, not like Bibi. Now this plan that I said before, Bibi came already at 2009 regarding Jerusalem is saying few things. First, you see the red line, the red dots line. This is the border of the Palestinian state, and the bluish dots line. This is according to Bibi's plan going to be the Israeli borders. Just for example, at the northern section, where you see almost the blue and red touching each other, this is a neighborhood called Neve Yaakov. Neve Yaakov, there are about 25,000 people living there, and the distance from the Palestinian state to this Jewish neighborhood, or to the buildings in this Jewish neighborhood, it's 50 meters, 50 meters. Can you imagine if Bibi, for so many years, cannot deal and he cannot stop the terror? Just last night, we had 4 rockets from Gaza Strip were were flying to the direction of Ashkelon. Last night. If Bibi cannot stop rockets flying few kilometers, can you depend on Bibi that he will know how to defend the people living in Neve Yaakov, that it's 50 meters, not even 1 kilometer, 50 meters. The same story, if you look at the bottom part of the map, you see like a tongue going from right to left, like the border, the red dots line, you see going into like a tongue, going to the left, going to the west. This is the area of 4 Arab neighborhoods, Anata, the Peace neighborhood, Ras Khamis, and Shoafat refugee camp. These 4 neighborhoods, Bibi wants to give that and to make it part of the El-Quds capital of the Palestinian state. The distance from this tongue, the buildings inside this neighborhood, to the neighborhoods of Pisgat Ze'ev and Givat Tzarfatit, to Jewish neighborhoods, it's 120 meters. In Pisgat Ze'ev, we have 50,000 people living there. So if you calculate what the distance, how many Jews are going to be at the at the first line with the Palestinian state, with the capital of the Palestinian state, according to Bibi plan, we are talking about 250,000, 250,000 Jews are going to live between 10 meters to a few hundred meters from a terrorist state. Now you should understand, at this moment, 11:45, if I want now to enter to these neighborhoods, or if Israeli police wants to go into this neighborhood, he can do it. I can do it. Now, once it will become a state, like Bibi is offering to do, no country can enter to another state country borders, because something like that would be considered, according to the international law, as it's against the law, against the international law. So once Arabs will start shooting into Pisgat Ze'ev and Givat Tzarfatit and Gilo and Neve Yaakov and Ramot, what will happen is Jews that are living in these neighborhoods will run away from these areas. They will not want to stay there. Now, another thing that is maybe even more dangerous. One of the stupid reasons that I hear all the time from people in the Likud party, why we should divide the city. By the way, including the Minister of Jerusalem, the last one, the previous one, Zev Elkin, but also others. One of the reasons that they are supporting dividing the city is that if we will take out these neighborhoods, we will make the demographic situation in Jerusalem better. Meaning, we will take out Arabs, and then the percentage of Jews will be increased. But the fact it's exactly the opposite. Because don't forget, the Arabs that are living in these neighborhoods are Israelis. They hold Israeli blue ID. And once, God forbid, once this plan will get to be approved, nobody will be able to stop them from entering to the western part of the border, to the Jewish section of Jerusalem, because they have blue ID. So what will happen is that more Arabs that living today in these neighborhoods will move into the western side of Jerusalem. So we will have the same amount of Arabs, but in a smaller city. The same thing exactly happened when Ehud Olmert and Arik Sharon at 2004, when they started building the separation or the security barrier around Jerusalem. They used the same reasons of where they put the wall. They say, once we put the wall, we will have less Arabs inside Jerusalem. But what happened between 2004 to 2009, 10, 80,000 80,000 Arabs that were living in Jericho, or in Bethlehem, or in Abu Dis, Azariah, areas that are behind of the wall. 80,000 Arabs moved into the intersection, or into the internal part of the wall. In this way, just to understand, the percentage of Jews dropped from 68% in Jerusalem. We are today just 61.5%. Now, if God forbid this plan will be approved, in a year or two, we will find little Jerusalem, smaller Jerusalem, with 50% Arab population. Jews will run away from this neighborhood that will become like the kibbutzim and the moshavim next to Gaza. Don't forget, the people living in Pisgat Ze'ev and in Ramot and in Gilo, they came there not in order to be settlers, not in order to be, in the, as pioneers. They came just because it was a cheap place, secure place to live in Jerusalem. Once bullets would start hit their buildings or their bodies or their cars, once bombs would be sent from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall, they will run away. And this is something dramatic, because it's not just going to divide the city, it's going to make the little Jerusalem more squashed, more crowded, more Arabs, and the percentage of Jews will fall to 50%, even maybe less. Another issue is that we must understand, look, that nobody, since 1967, nobody touched the borders of Jerusalem. Nobody. Not Yitzhak Rabin, not Menachem Begin, not Shimon Peres, not Ariel Sharon. Nobody touched. It was a consensus. Nobody touched. To remind you, at 1996, when Bibi ran first time to the Prime Minister office against Shimon Peres, he used a slogan saying, Peres will divide Jerusalem. But if we check, the fact is that Peres never negotiated on Jerusalem. Peres never talked about Jerusalem. But there is one person that is not just talking about dividing Jerusalem, that it's Bibi Netanyahu, but he is also practically doing it. And this is bringing me to the last point. I will say it in another way. I'm calling you, our friends in the United States, and people that know to write and to talk in English, to flood every congressman office and Trump office with a demand that Trump will allow Israel to build the neighborhood in Atarot. Atarot is at the northern section of Jerusalem. Atarot village that at 1906, listen to the year, 1906, Ber Katzenelson and Levi Eshkol they were part of the 10 pioneers that settled in Atarot, and they established there a Jewish village. Later, the British built there the airport, the international airport, and at 1948, the Haganah instructed the people living there and fighting there to withdraw from Atarot, and Atarot fell. to the Jordanian hands. At 1967, Atarot returned back to Jewish hands. The land there, we're talking about thousands of dunams, belonged to Jews that bought it, and to JNF that bought it at 1906 until 1922. And there is a plan to build there a Jewish neighborhood. Today, it was published in the newspapers that Donald Trump put a veto against building a Jewish neighborhood in this area. And I'm talking about a neighborhood that it's on the land belonged to Jews for more than 100 years. And I'm calling you, people that are connected somehow to the Republican Party, to the Kufis, anyone that is close to Trump, to make a very clear message. Don't interfere with our capital, with our holy city. And I really believe that if Trump will continue in this way, he will not be re-elected. Kadosh Baruch Hu, God, Hashem, will not give anyone like that is touching Jerusalem any victory. It's a holy city, not because I said it's a holy city. It's become a holy city because of the temple that were built there, the first and the second, and the third will be built. And anyone that is talking or even doing things and putting veto against Jews returning back to the holy city, so we need to understand, he's not dealing with Arieh King, he's not dealing with FC, he's not dealing with the Israeli government, he's dealing with Hashem, with God. And I believe that Hashem will punish him. And it will be punished sooner than even he can even think about. So the point is that Donald Trump today is putting a veto against Jewish building on a land belonged to Jews for more than 100 years that is part of Jerusalem. It's unacceptable. And he shouldn't listen to Bibi, because Bibi is practically, Bibi is fulfilling and implementing the plans of Yossi Farid and Shulamit Aloni and all of these extremely leftist people that at 1980, 1985, they talked about exactly what Bibi is now doing, dividing Jerusalem, establishing a Palestinian terrorist state in the heart of our nation, our country, sorry. So to put everything together, as I said before, it's not something, I live in Mount of Olives, and I believe that if, God forbid, Bibi's plan, what's so-called the plan of the century, will be approved, God forbid, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the end of the state of Israel in Eretz Israel. Because once you touch Jerusalem and you give part of Jerusalem, there will not be any excuses in the future when will be a leftist prime minister, more leftist than Bibi, or there will be a Democrat in the White House. You will not be able to explain why you cannot give more neighborhoods. After this first 8 neighborhoods that Bibi wants to give now, once you touch the borders of Jerusalem, so you can give more parts of Jerusalem. You started with Anata, with Kfar Aked, Kalandia in the north, like you see in the picture, but later you can go to Siluan and to Jabal Mukaber and to Bet Safafa and to Tzur Bacher, everywhere. So we are I think in a point now that if we don't put all of our cards and we don't put all of our efforts to stop this crisis coming into Jerusalem, I think it will be this will be just the beginning. Starting with 8 neighborhoods, another eight neighborhoods later, and I live in Mount of Olives. In this stage, I must say, Bibi is not yet offering any part to the Palestinian state. But why not? Why and if Bibi will not be the prime minister, who can promise me that the next prime minister, maybe it will be Yair Lapid or Gantz or Ashkenazi, they will say, Bibi already divided Jerusalem. We are just continuing what he started with. And just to understand the distances from the Palestinian state to places that everybody knows. So the distance to route number one, it's a route coming from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The distance from the Palestinian state to route number one, it's about 300 meters. So it's mean that when you will enter Jerusalem coming from Tel Aviv, if you come by route number one, the main highway, you will be controlled from Bet Iksa village, and every blind sniper that will use his weapon will hit your car. And if he is a good sniper, he will be able to kill you. And like that, the same on the train, the I train, the heavy train coming to Jerusalem, that it's just 120 meters from Bet Iksa. Can you imagine the main train to Jerusalem going 120 meters from a Palestinian terrorist state? And now if you come from 443, the other highway coming from Modi'in to Jerusalem, so this is even worse, because in both sides, you will be controlled by the Palestinian state. So you are, all of you, friends of Jerusalem, and you care about Jerusalem. I'm calling you for the sake of Jerusalem. Explain it to Trump, to every congressman, that this plan is the beginning of the end of Jerusalem as a Jewish city. That's what I have to say.
Okay. Thank you so much, Arieh. What you have to say is always so valuable. And I have a couple of questions from audience members that I want to ask you before I ask you my questions. One of the questions is, did Bibi ever make this proposal to Obama?
Yes, Bibi, as I said, 2009, June, I think it was June 14, 2009, Bibi proposed it to Obama. It was called the Bar Ilan Declaration of Benjamin Netanyahu. You can check it, you can see it. Okay. Bar Ilan speech of Netanyahu was at June 2009 at Obama times. Yes.
Okay. So, and then what do polls show of Jerusalem Arab population's attitude towards either becoming citizens of Jerusalem or the status quo? And what happens to all of this if Biden wins the election?
Look, the Arabs, they want to stay under Israeli sovereignty. They know in which side of the bread the butter is spread. They know that quality of life, standard of life, of living in Israel is much, much higher than in any other place in the Palestinian Authority. And therefore, the Arabs are afraid from this plan. And this is why I believe, and I see it already in the real estate market in East Jerusalem, more and more Arabs will just run away. They will run away from these neighborhoods that they consider to be, according to Bibi, the future capital of the Palestinian state, and they will run away into the Jewish areas. Regarding, and by the way, they are talking about it. They are talking about it. More and more of them are talking about it. That Bibi can talk with Trump as much he wants, but according to the Israeli law, they can move and live everywhere in Jerusalem, and Bibi cannot stop them. They have a blue ID. They are Israeli citizens or Israeli residents. They have freedom of movement. So it's really not going to help us at all. It's just making the situation harder in the smaller Jerusalem. This is one thing. Second thing is about Biden. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for this question about Biden.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows the answer about Biden. So one of the things that from the deal of the century, or the Peace to Prosperity plan, there are all these conditions that are, you know, there are 100 pages really of conditions that are supposedly going to be presupposed in order for the U.S. to help the PLO to form a state. What do you think about the validity of these preconditions? Do you think they mean anything? Do you think they can be thrown out of the window?
Look, the same issue of I hear a lot that people say, "Oh, let's take what we can take," and because in any case, the conditions from the Arab side will not be approved, and therefore we will take what we will be able to take, and they will not get anything because they will reject it and will refuse to it. But this is exactly the same word that were used at 1994 during the Oslo time of negotiating, and people said the same. We will accept, we will bring Arafat, but in any case, they will not do this, they will not do that, and we will win, we will get a peace, and they will not get nothing. And we see what happened. They got more and more, slowly, part of this, part of there, Hebron, Jericho, Gaza, and more pieces. Piece by piece, they are taking part of Eretz Israel. So, unfortunately, we see that the leadership of the Palestinian Authority is much more stronger than our leadership. They didn't give up on 1 centimeter. We just gave more and more parts of Eretz Israel. They didn't give up on 1 centimeter. So when people say, okay, the condition will not get to that because the Arab will refuse, I'm saying, okay, maybe today they will refuse, but who can promise me that in another 7 years, after, God forbid, the Likud, Bibi Netanyahu, will approve it, and in another 7 years, some leader of the Arabs will say, okay, you approved to us one part, give us this part, and let's take another piece of Eretz Israel. And I am afraid this will happen, and because other leaders will come and will be willing to compromise, even so the conditions from the Arab side, we didn't got to them. Even so, we will compromise again and again and again, and each time we compromise, the result will be to give more parts of Eretz Israel. Another thing is just to understand the issue in the south of Israel, the idea to give to the Palestinians, the PLO, to give the Arabs a area between Egypt, the Egyptian border, and Beersheba. This is something dramatic. You should understand. It's like to have another Gaza Strip that is in the south, but it's another, not widening the existing one. It's another section, the same size, even wider than the existing Gaza Strip. And the same thing that we are facing today around this Gaza Strip, we will face in other areas. And we know we cannot depend on the Egyptians that they will protect us. We see what's going on today already in Sinai with ISIS and weapon that is coming into Gaza Strip. So imagine that we will have this double the size of the existing Gaza Strip in another area in east and south of Jerusalem. So talking about everything, we cannot take the chance. It's time that we will not, our leadership will say, we are not going to compromise on 1 meter in Eretz Israel. If they are willing to give us 30%, 15% sovereignty, it's okay, but we don't need to give them anything back.
Okay, Arieh. So our good friend, Cheryl Jacobs-Lewin, who you know very well, says, have you spoken with Ambassador Friedman?
No. I did talk with people from the team of the Plan of the Century. I had a meeting with them a few months ago already. Not with Ambassador Friedman, no.
Okay, because he seems to be very much in favor of this plan. But let's go on to the next. Goldie Steiner from
Canada,
you know her well too,
yeah.
Says, what about if there was a regime change and a younger generation accepts some of the conditions? What happens then? Already there are voices who realize that by changing the rhetoric, they can, of course, break any agreement the day after it is made. What happens then with a partial agreement to the conditions in the deal?
This is exactly the point. If you read the plan of the deal of the century, you see that, first of all, from stage one, we Israelis, we will not be allowed to build in most of the areas in Judea and Samaria. This is stage one. This is without getting anything. For 4 years, we cannot build. Second is, as God is asking, if during the process of fulfilling that deal, something will change. So what will happen is that everything will be freezed according to where it's got to. Sorry. So it's not that we will return back part of Jerusalem to be part of Israel. If we gave it already, so it's gone. Okay? If we gave them some parts, it's gone. It's not belong to us. If we change areas from area C to area B, or from area B to area A, it's not going to be it's irrevocable. It will be freezed according to where it's got to. And the problem is we don't have any ways. And don't forget, we are not dealing with a Democrat Western country. We're talking about a terrorist organization. So this is just the question if you're dealing with terrorist B or terrorist Z, okay? And if you want to depend on what this terrorist or that terrorist will decide when to break the deal, or when to take his step and to put the flames back in Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem. So why to go from the beginning to any deal with these people? If Bibi is talking about that this state will not be with an army, okay? Nobody can promise, not me, and not Bibi, nobody, not David Friedman, and not Trump. Nobody can promise that after we approve this plan, in another 4 years, Joe Biden, the president of the States, will pass a decision that this state of Palestine can have an army, because they will say that the deal didn't came to the end from this reason or that reason, and therefore they want to secure the life of the president or the prime minister of the Palestinian state, and he must have an army. Israel will not be able to stop it from happening, and they will demand an airport city, international airport for themselves. How can we stop it once they are a state? According to the international law, and we know that the international arena is not in favor of Israel, not in Hague, not in the EU, and not in the UN. So why to take more risks, more than what we already took on ourselves? We are already suffering from the risk of Yitzhak Rabin in Oslo. Now we are going to put more risk? It's insane. It's a sickness that came from the leftists, and now Bibi and some other Likud members are infected from this disease.
I hear you, Arieh. Jonathan and Lainey Grauman want to know, why do we need a peace plan at all? Why can't Israel build throughout Eretz Yisrael without a plan? Are we still so subservient to the rest of the world?
Yes, we are. Unfortunately, we are. It's very sad to say. Even so, Israel is stronger than ever, okay? At the last 72 years of the state of Israel, we were never more stronger than what we are today. Economically, from security point of view, an army, the Arabs are killing each other all over around us. We have so good connections with so many Arab countries that they hate each other, so they joined us against the Shia in Iran, or even between the Sunni countries. And you see, the Arab countries are not talking about it. They don't care anymore about the so-called Palestinian people. They know better than us who are these people are. A gang of terrorist Bedouins that they don't deserve anything. The silence coming from all over, from Egypt, from Saudi Arabia, from Morocco, from Algeria, from Iraq, even Turkey. Nothing dramatic. So the question is so good. We don't need any peace agreement, because all of these agreements are about pieces of Eretz Israel, not about peace. We should build everywhere as much we want, and if somebody have a problem, so we don't need even to react and to respond to his problems and to his response to our decisions. We need to do what we think is good for us. And we saw that every time we behave like that, more countries all over the world respect us more. We don't need to get approval from a King of Belgium or the Queen of England or the President of the United States. We need to think what is written in the Torah about our rights to Eretz Israel. We need to look what is good for the people that will make Aliyah now more and more from the States, from Canada, from France. And according to that, we need to decide where to build. Jews are returning back to Eretz Israel. Numbers are raising dramatically. And there is so big demand to build. And this is why we cannot accept, interfere from our friends in the White House.
So, Arieh, this is why you're saying that we don't need to really be subservient to a plan put upon us by any other government in the world. We can really go ahead and do what Israel can go ahead and do what Israel needs to do.
Correct. But I want again to remind you what I said in the beginning. It's a plan that came from inside, from Bibi. It's not that the government came from outside. It's a plan that Bibi is holding for over more than 11 years. And now we have a partner that adopted this plan. And this partner is a real Israel lover. It's Donald Trump. And unfortunately, Bibi Netanyahu is pushing Trump to the left. And this is why you, people in the diaspora, need to wake up and to alert Trump that he's doing a big mistake. Bibi is behaving, as I said before, like leftists talked 30, 35 years ago. And Bibi is implementing the plans and the agenda of the leftists of Israel 30, 35 years ago. And Donald Trump, as a person that is close to the Jewish people, and is close to the idea of knowing that Jerusalem needs to be kept as a holy city where also Christians can come here without bothering themselves what will a terrorist in this neighborhood or that neighborhood will decide and will disturb and will... Look what happened in Bethlehem. Look what happened in Bethlehem, just nearby Jerusalem. All the Christians ran away from there. Because of who? Because of the terrorist gang of the PLO. So I'm calling the people in the States to wake up. If you are a Jew, if you are a Christian, if you are a human being that care about better life for the people living in Eretz Israel, not to leave us here in Jerusalem by ourselves to deal with this deal, the deal of the century, because you should understand that your government in the States is supporting something that is bad for the Jews, is bad for the Christian, and it's bad to the Muslims that are living here, that they want to live under Israeli government. They don't want to live under corrupted terrorist authority.
So again, Cheryl says J Street is pushing for this plan not to go through in any form. And of course, that gives us a little bit of pause. If J Street doesn't like it, then maybe we should like it. How do you reconcile that, Arieh?
Look, there's no question that J Street will want to have a capital for the Palestinian state bigger than what they are being offered today by Bibi. So I understand the J Street. They want to get more than what Bibi is offering them. This is why they are against it. I understand them from their point of view why they are against, because they want to get more.
That's very, very understandable. How can Israel Eileen Kurtak, who is our administrator, wants to say that Israel needs to disseminate better PR for itself. The Arab propaganda machine has been too strong all these years. Israel should not have to wait for approval for anything from any country. No other country has to get approval for their sovereignty. Why should Israel? And it's a very good question. How do we tell our members? How do we explain to not only our members but our people who are not necessarily on the same page as we are? Why is Israel waiting for other people to tell them what they can do?
Look, Judy, what Elaine is asking, it's a very good question. Look, up to 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when the idea of pushing forward to sovereignty was first time raised, nobody talked about the deal of the century. The idea of connecting the sovereignty to the deal of the century, it's or was a stupid idea, or it was a very smart idea, because in this way, Bibi, by connecting a positive thing to a negative thing, he kills the positive thing. There is a very big majority and in favor in Israel, even in some central leftist Knesset members that are in favor in sovereignty, in Gush Etzion, in the Jordan Valley. But by connecting it to the deal of the century, you kill this idea. So, or it was a stupid idea, and by that it was the sovereignty. We don't need that sovereignty. It's idea that we don't need to get approval from anyone. It's exactly like happened in the Golan Heights. It's exactly like what happened in East Jerusalem. So Donald Reagan was upset for a few years, few months, I don't know what. So what? We continued. The same here should be done. And again, we are stronger than what we were before 20, 30, 40 years ago. If we could do it in Golan Heights, if we could do it in east of Jerusalem, we can do it today in Gush Etzion, in Jordan Valley, in Ma'ale Adumim, and in more, and Ariel, and more areas without asking no one, no country, just make it happen by our decision, with our money, with our government and our Knesset members. And I'm very sad that Bibi really connected this good thing, this idea of sovereignty to this bad idea, this bad plan that, as I said, Bibi is holding for a few years already. So to the question of Eileen, yes, we don't need to ask anyone. We can just do it.
Okay, thank you, Arieh. So we have about, I don't know, 5 minutes left or so. Can you give us a little bit of an insider's view as to what's happening in Jerusalem? You are now the deputy mayor of Jerusalem. What should we know about what's happening in Jerusalem?
Look, Jerusalem, I will talk about the positive things, because many people are asking, what can we do? What can we do? So as I said, I started with that. First, what you should do is, whatever you heard now, please be our messenger. Pass it over by Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, newspapers, everything. Today I had the article in Jerusalem Post about it. Just pass it forward. People don't know the reality that this plan is going to put us in Jerusalem, or put you, when you come as a visitor, as a tourist, it will put you in a great risk. Second thing is, the things that we can do on the ground. And this is what we are doing all years. And these are positive things. we are building more and more in East Jerusalem. In Bet Hanina, we got last week approval for more about 100 apartments of Jews in Bet Hanina, that is in north of Jerusalem, in Bet Safafa, in next to Kibbutz Ramat Rachel, more and more areas, and there is a big demand. You should understand, there's a lot of Arabs that are willing to sell a property in these areas because they are afraid that they will find themselves suddenly in an area that will be part of the Palestinian state. So they are offering for a good prices the properties, and we are on it. We are trying to buy that because we think it's a good opportunity to buy, yes, to buy land in the area that Bibi wants to make it a Palestinian state. We believe that it will not happen, and not because of Bibi, because of the public. So we have a good opportunities now to buy properties from Arabs and move Jews to live in these areas. And this is something positive that is happening. Another thing is that I want everyone here to ask you to help me, to help us, to send emails, to put comments to Bibi's Facebook, Twitter, everything, to push him to the corner and to ask him, why don't you build in Givat Matos, a plain hill? It's a Jewish neighborhood approved since 2015 of 2,700 apartments, and Bibi is not allowing us to build. It's a Jewish neighborhood in South Jerusalem, and the same in Atarot. As I said before, that Donald Trump put a veto. I really believe that the public awareness is important and crucial to the successful of our movement and our actions against this dangerous deal of the century.
Arieh, we will definitely mobilize in that direction. We definitely are so thankful that you were with us to give us this insider's view. And I will close with Goldie Steiner's comment, which is, I vote for you to become Prime Minister of Israel. Why not shout from every roof that Israel has the legal, historical, biblical rights to the land from the river to the sea? Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Arieh, for giving us the real insider's view. And we will continue to be in touch with you and to learn from you. And we thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
My pleasure. Thank you for everybody to participate and to listen. And please be our messenger.
We will be. We will be. That's our job. That's our job here. You're doing your job there. Thank you. Shalom.
Thank you, Judy. Yishar koach, Judy. Thank you.
Shalom.